Well, all righty then. Wow, doing things all kinds of last minute today. So, welcome back to another Wine Shark Wednesday with yours truly, the Wine Shark. Sorry for the late notice, everybody. I was running a bit behind, including forgetting to put up my backdrop until 5 minutes ago because, you know, it's a thing. So, we're going to be doing chit chat about Brett today. We're going to be talking about all kinds of fun things in the wine world. And we're going to chat a little bit about some more grocery store grabs. We're going to do some cans and boxes again. The other kind of completion of the discussion about formats for the summer stuff that's been going on. So, I would also note that I'm using my shark in a glass wine glasses today because reasons. So here we'll get the glamour shot for those that have seen these on the internet. There's his little shark fin sticking up out of the wine because things are awesome. And thanks to the Parkers and to Miss Jenna for those glasses. Very kind gift. So let's see what's been going on since we spoke last. I've been messing around with video, tampering with the things in my video editing suite and sound and things, etc. I want to remind everybody that, while I happen to be live on YouTube right now, being a YouTuber is not my job. I'm a wine educator primarily at heart, and this is kind of a channel for what it is that I want to, get out there in the world. It's, one of many of the things that I've got working for as far as WineShark is concerned. But I am always interested in the creative aspects of it. I've always been a kind of a fan of the medium. And so I'm playing around with some of the cool things that we can do, including getting music and some more post-editing effects, thinking about changing how the background videos the basics videos rather, and the series of those goes. Just kind of a looking at what that quality production and balancing the points between just live chit chat with you guys and off the cuff topics to just a few more other things that can help and enhance the learning process if we're going to have some of these stuff on archives. So that's been kind of a fun project this week. We also had last week. We had some. We did the wine and cheese show. This is the second wine and cheese show that we've done. And so, in my searchings and in the way that algorithms work, of course, I started getting served up various cheese advertisements, clubs, etc., by Facebook and other social media platforms, which is always amusing to me. But what was actually kind of cool though was I found a place to a cheese subscription service, which looks really kind of cool. And they send you like 4 cheeses a month from these various small and hard to find from cheesemakers and creameries, which I thought was awesome. And then I looked at the price point and went, wow, that's right now not in my budget. I don't have $100 a month cheese habit. I mean, there's a lot of things to have awesome habits for, but so far cheese is not yet it. And actually, when you think about it, for the quality of cheeses that I am buying when I purchase them for shows or for example shows like this, or just even when I want something fun and awesome to snack on, it's usually in that $17 to $25 a pound range anyway. So if they're going to send you 4 pounds of cheese, you're probably doing pretty good by that if you consider shipping and handling and tax, license, dealer prep, and dock fee. That's probably kind of a usual kind of thing. But you can't beat the selections that I saw on the examples there, I got to say. Unless you have a true fromager or great, cheese shop in your neighborhood. And I'm talking about even better than places like, say, Central Market, where I do my shopping. You're not going to get a lot of these cheeses because they don't have them in the quantities needed. What I mean is the local big box and grocery stores aren't going to have them because they want to stock them throughout their enterprise, and so they kind of have to go with they have to go with, generally speaking, either larger producers or producing their own. What we talked about, those in-house cheesemakers for places like I think the example there is the Kroger, for instance, brand. They have their Murray's brand, which is a nice above the basics level but below the artisanal level cheese brand. So anyway, kind of fun cheese stuff. And also thinking just about content and stuff over the last couple of weeks. I've got a nice long list of content and topics for you guys to go through with no particular end in sight. This, wine is a delightfully complicated and interesting topic, at least for me. And there's lots to talk about. But in the other way of just looking at business wise and education wise, and the parts that set me apart for as a wine educator, the things that I love doing and make this fun for me, and I think fun for you guys as well, is I was also really digging in and getting back to the things that I do well, the things that separate me out. Because frankly, there's a lot of great places you can go learn about some of the wine basics and the stuff that I've been teaching. In other words, if you want to learn how to open a bottle of wine, I'm probably not going to teach you anything in particular that's different than anybody else. There's so when it comes to some of those, I want to include some in the library because I think they are good for somebody who comes and starts poking around and wants to learn. But what I really think is that putting a little bit more of the me and putting in more of the not only editorial, but kind of the a stance and belief system that go behind things, the kind of how I approach stuff is probably going to be coming out a little bit more. And so I may be switching up some of the formatting of things in that nature, which I think is going to be fun. I mean, this is, for instance, we're going to talk about technical topics today. We're going to talk about brettanomyces. But when we talk about that, of course, I'm going to give you my spin on things as I always kind of do. It's through the lens of my education, my experience. So it kind of comes along with that. All that being said, there's some other topics though, and there's some other things that I think that could stand to go into the pre-recorded shows that I think will enhance things. So anyway, that's kind of what's been going on. That's the news from the week. Let's talk about Brett. Let's have an honest conversation about Brett, or rather Brettanomyces, for those that are playing along with our home game. It's not just some dude's name. Brettanomyces is a particular type of yeast. It's what we call a rogue yeast growth that can be present in red wine production and some bottle fermented sparkling wines, specifically those that are made via the transfer method. And it is often considered a flaw, or it is definitely one of the factors that we consider when we talk about flaws in wine. We've already talked about oxidization, right, or oxidation, depending on how you want to pronounce it, which version of the word you want to use. We talked about that for a bit, but now we're also going to talk about reduction, and this Brettanomyces or Brett is something that I wanted to get out early because this is a topic that has much subjectivity. In certain examples of wine flaws, there are things that basically everybody agrees have ruined your product. Example one, trichloroanisole, i.e., cork taint. Nobody really enjoys the way that makes wine taste. It is a flaw through and through. It is a mistake. It happens. It's bad. Okay. But many of the other types of flaws come along with some degree of interpretation, and the degree to which they're flawed and the style of wine and the context that they're used has factors. So let's talk a bit about Brett and how that gets that particular portion of that factor. So, as I said, it is a rogue yeast growth that can be present in red wine production and some bottle fermented wines. What does it do? Well, it causes a loss of fruit flavors. It has an animal, savory, or phenolic kind of characteristic to aroma and taste, and sometimes a distinctive drying or metallic sensation on the back of your palate. Some people call it like tasting a copper penny or other such metallic type notes. Okay, they're a particular set of chemicals that are produced by this yeast during its life cycle. Two in particular, which cause most of the problems / notables that come along with it. They are called 4-ethylphenol and 4-ethylguaiacol, commonly known as 4-EP and 4-EG, when we're shortening those for conversational purposes. For many years, Brettanomyces were considered part of terroir. It wasn't really until the early 20th century where beer makers were going, wait a minute, this isn't going the way we want it to. In the beer world, Brettanomyces was something that was basically discovered as being part of certain styles of beer, particularly some of the Belgian lambics, sours, and such. And when they moved the beers over to England, and they were trying to recreate these styles, they were found that something was missing, and what it was this particular bacterial thing that was going on, this yeast strain rather. So the problem with that was that it was very defined in the style, but basically everywhere else, it's considered a really bad thing. Okay, it's considered difficult to control and takes meticulous hygiene to maintain and reduce its presence during the wine and beer making process. So much so that, for instance, in beer makers where they use it purposefully to make styles like sours, some of the places will go so far as having completely separate brewing facilities between their Brett-based beers and their non-Brett beers. Well, in the wine world, generally we don't do that, and so what you found was this consideration of terroir or place was really what was supposed to be giving wines this particular character. That's just the way those wines tasted. Um, it's also thought to be able to control via sulfur oxide or SO2 addition. Yes, sulfites for those that have had that conversation with me, which we will get into another rant later. But this also arrests fermentation in the wine, but can also be used to kill Brett. Now, I read 2 or 3 different sources. The primary ones that I think that are the most scientific say that the SO2 levels kill Brett. I also read at least one that says that doesn't work, but that was a non-scientific paper, and specifically not something that was done for that. So I tend to believe the scientists on that one that the SO2 levels will indeed kill Brett. But how does it happen? Okay, what is it? When does it become a flaw? Well, like we talked about in oxidation, oxidation happens in the presence of oxygen somewhere during the winemaking or storage process. Well, Brett happens when the wine becomes vulnerable during certain stages of production. Especially during its aging process. It's usually post fermentation problem, or actually, it's always a post fermentation problem. But it happens when your wine has either low sulfur addition, if you know, or low or no sulfur addition. For instance, if you're using a quote unquote natural wine and you didn't add sulfites. If your wine has a higher pH, closer to the 4 pH range rather than the 3 pH range. Okay. Warm cellar temperatures can also be one part of the culprit to help spread Brett. Having residual non-fermentable sugars, Brett can feed on particular types of sugars that are not in the class that the Saccharomyces yeast that makes the wine alcoholic can't eat. So it basically has this perfect dining buffet left over. And then wines that have what's called high turbidity, meaning that they're less filtered, right? They look more cloudy. All of those conditions, or certain ones of those in the right state, can cause the wine, the Brett, to become active and do bad things to your wine. So then comes the question: is it a flaw? Well, this is where the "it depends" part comes in. In general, this is a thing where how much Brett, in what context, and what style of wine you're making really will determine whether it's considered a flaw or not, as much as the individual taster will determine what level of flaw it is. Bad aromatics that are associated with Brett, or the smells that come across that people find off-putting, include things like Band-Aid smell, horsey or barnyard smells, medicinal, sweaty, or rancid smells. None of those things, I'm assuring you, sound very appealing to put in your mouth. Okay. As you can imagine, when we have flavor pictures that come into our minds, those are ones where you go, yeah, no, that goes good. But as some of you all know, that some aromatics can be very deceptive on just your aroma palate, but then when combined with the wine in your mouth, actually have a pleasing sensation. I'm looking at you, for MMP and say bell peppers and such. And we're looking at things like the gooseberry or cat piss smell of, say, Sauvignon Blancs, which I'm drinking a Kim Crawford Sauvignon Blanc right now, making the irony outstanding. So, but they also have good aromatics that come along with Brett. Things like spicy or smoky, honey or lilac sensations. These are all positive aromatics, things that in the right context could be kind of nice, right? A nice smoky, big red wine is kind of appealing. So with all those factors combined, it really goes how far up the scale. Brett does have a life cycle where it kind of starts at the good end and ends at the what I would call rougher end of the spectrum. Some folks that I read upon, and some folks that I've spoken to, talk about it being a generational difference from older standards of winemaking. In other words, people who grew up in the old guard of winemaking, where Brett was more common, wasn't recognized for the flaw that it can be, kind of accepted that that's what wine was, quote unquote, supposed to taste like. that they called it that terroir factor simply because wines from a certain place had that taste. Interestingly enough, these things were not necessarily connected to any particular year over year. In other words, you might have a wine that presents bready one year and then it doesn't present bready the next year, which is very odd considering that sense of place. You would think that the soils, etc., would mandate or always pass along their particular features to the wine. So, interestingly enough, with cycles right now and popularity and the uprising of natural wines are often made without sulfites and are therefore with low sulfur addition. You have a great environment, and these wines tend to run towards that turbid, bready sort of thing going on. Okay. So what you've got is this generational thing where, older generations kind of liked it, international style, modern generations didn't. And then now you're getting into the newer millennial drinkers. And next thing you know, we're coming back around where Brett's considered one of those, it's kind of okay. I kind of like the way that goes. Okay. Perception threshold is another key thing to think about here. Literally the amount of Brett that it takes to be present for you to detect it at all, the human level of perception. So generally speaking, when it's below that perception threshold, it might, you're not noting it as Brett, it's not a flaw because it doesn't matter that it's there because it's not affecting or impacting your wine tasting. And then when you get to the lower end of the scale, that's the point where I think you see people who go, oh, this is kind of nice. It's got something going on. It's got a little funky funk. So that's the cool part of it. Hang on, I'm going to check my chat here. Sorry, I've been blabbling on. Stop buying one I've been previously liked because it smelled and tasted like petroleum. Possibly not the same thing, but I haven't checked to see if they fixed that. Okay, so the petroleum note, Donna, is a different chemical and phenol compound. But yes, it's the same type of aromatic compound that the petroleum you like is not a smell you find appealing, and therefore it might impact your experience of the wine. Rieslings, for instance, tend to have high degrees of chemicals that cause that particular reaction. So I can see where the aromatic might be off-putting, and therefore you shut it down. Now, again, those aromatics, however, are not considered flaws. They're simply part of the winemaking process per se. In other words, it's considered a perfectly valid wine, even though it has an aroma you may not enjoy. Okay, we talked to one of our other customers. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago, where the 4-MMP, which is often referred to as a bell pepper or pepper-like smell, often present in Cabernet Francs and Cabernet Sauvignons, is something that she doesn't like. She doesn't like the flavor of green bell peppers. Therefore, she smells it in the wine and it becomes off-putting. Even though that's not considered a flaw, it's actually a feature. So understand that there's a fine line difference between smells that you may personally not enjoy and things that can actually corrupt. So Rob asked, where does the yeast get introduced? In the grape. Introduction comes in various places. One, yes, it's part of the regular field hygiene that comes along with just the natural part. There's actually some interesting but still pending studies regarding how the yeast cells have a dormant state that's actually that's too small to be caught by most filtration, things that would carry away or trap certain microbiological elements. This is said to have a smaller state that slips through those filters and can then later become a viable strain under the right and or quote, wrong conditions. So it's, like I said, like any other microbiome, it's out there in a lot of different places. Oftentimes you'll hear it referred to as it happens in the cellar. Right. So it's the environment around in the cellar condition as well that might contribute to that growth of Brett, not just what you're seeing coming in through the bottle, through the fermentation process. So it's kind of a double wham. All right. And so John was talking about how those phenolics actually kind of, the example there, John, with your petroleum smell going away after a certain period of time. What you're seeing there is what we call volatile aromatics, right? Volatility in this sense, in the chemical sense, talks about its ability to evaporate at normal room temperatures. And therefore those flavors can effectively just go away because what they're doing is they're evaporating out of the wine, and therefore you don't perceive them anymore, and you proceed and your wine is, A-okay to drink, which is awesome. right? I'm actually kind of cruising through here. I'm gonna go back to my Riesling example because that's where we spoke about Riesling specifically, and we were talking about the chemical compound that causes this feature. I'm trying to remember what it was. I'm having one of those failure on a test days where I can't remember the damn chemical. I've got too many other chemicals running around my brain at this moment. So go figure. It's you try and stuff your brain with chemistry all day, and sometimes you can remember parts of it but can't remember the others, which is just no. I'm sorry. 4-MMP. See, I misspoke. That's where it is. 4-MMP is the cat piss flavor, the volatile thiols, not the flavor, the green bell pepper flavor. I was incorrect again, jumbling up my chemistry because I've been doing this all day long. So anyhow, all righty, let's talk about the other factors that go into this. There's some interesting fun stuff where some people talk about the musky aromas of Brett are very much hooked into kind of our lizard brains, our very primal brains, where people who like Bretty, what we call Bretty wines, it's an almost visceral slash sexual experience. It's where it's that aroma that goes that triggers something in that pheromone brain of ours. There's an excellent little piece in one of the articles that I was reading up on where a woman who was both a wine producer and had been in the perfume industry, where the perfume industry talked about the same thing, a certain particular type of musk and musky aroma that really kind of kick people's sex drive in. And so, that sort of, and again, it is a very personal thing for everyone, but that's one of those triggering aromas that people tend to get for. So that's one of those big slutty reds that my friend Jana talks about. So this is Brett is probably one of those perfect examples of where the variety of acceptable differences, even in very fine wine circles, is all over the place. Brett is highly controversial. And so it really depends on not only who you ask, but who you are in your wine drinking journey as to what you think is a good or bad version of this. Okay. Some folks crave that lighter end of things. They like that light Brett spectrum, that barnyard thing that's going on. And it builds and enhances on the style. If you can imagine, things like the Syrahs from Chateauneuf de Pape have this savory slash meaty characteristics, this dried meats thing that's part of that bready character. So Brett there works for the wine and where it's going the same thing and it's enhancing. Whereas Brett, say up in Bordeaux, where these Pinot Noirs are these lean, fine-tuned race cars, anything like Brett is really out of place, and it just because it destroys the fruit, which is so expertly prepared, you're basically destroying what you're there for. And so those that are big, anti Brett folks talk about the clumsy, how it's just a clumsy overrun flavor. It's just it's a bull in a china shop, and it really has no place there. Also, certain styles of warmer climate reds, where the higher levels of residual sugar tend to remain even after production, even though the wine may be dry, you're going to get that concept of harmony because the sugars can help kind of balance things out, right? In fact, actually, the Wine Basics video I'm going to film this week is basically talking about mouthfeel and balance a little bit, and so you'll get back onto that. 2-methyloxy-3-isobutylpyrazine. So what is that? It's 3-MMP. No, it's 2-M3I. 2-M3P? Anyway, I'll have to look. There's a shortcut one to that one. Thank you, Barbara, for looking up that one for me. I couldn't find it in my previous notes. So anyway, so again, Brett, it matters as a personal style. This I really can't say this anymore about wine when we talk about it in all of its subjective and flavor factions. It's about what you like. But what's important is, like most flaws, one of my primary goals is to teach people how to identify them so they can figure out if that's a thing that they don't like, if it's a thing that makes the wine broken and that's why they don't like it, which, by the way, they shouldn't, or whether it's just something that, as like Brett, is a subjective flaw that in various degrees you may like and others may not. How to find it, how to avoid it, whatever your personal case may be. So it's really important to understand how flaws work so that you know when you're getting something that doesn't taste the way it should, but it's also understanding about how the things that you like work as well. Kind of a two-sided coin. So awesome. Well, like I said, that's about it on Brett. Any questions? We talked about other aromas. I'm gonna go look up that. Look, I'll have to go look that one up as well because I know that I had a shortcut mnemonic for it. Yeah, just priazines per wine folly. Yeah, that would be the that because so thiols are basically your cat pee, priazines are your green bell peppers and your peppers. So, and again, wine folly, I would not deign to disagree. Madeline and team are sharp, sharp, sharp. So anyway, let's talk about the grocery store grab. We're about at that point in time in the show anyway, and besides which, I'm thirsty. So 2 weeks ago now, we talked about bottles and cans and just clap your hands and just clap your hands. But we're back to the rest of the grocery store grab that I got that week. I got two other selections that I was saving for this week to chit chat about, and those are the Crawford Sauvignon Blanc, right? Little New Zealand number here from Marlborough. And then, of course, we've also got the Black Box Pinot Noir, right? Don't ask what's in the black box. It just works, all right? So the grocery store grab, for those that are unfamiliar, although most I'm pretty sure are, for efficacy and all that, grocery store grab is to help choose the best, to get your best value per dollar for wines that are found at non-specialty and non-big box retailers. If you aren't fortunate enough to have a nice wine shop or big box retailer in your town or nearby, or if you just for the convenience of it shop for your wine at the same time you shop for your hosiery and your groceries, well then you're going to need the grocery store grab. So we choose the wines without research. Basically, I go to the shop and look right there on your grocery store shelves, find out what's in front of me, and I work on a label-based focus. In other words, reading the labels to find out whether these wines tell us what we need to know about what's inside the can or box in these cases, bottles in the other case. So this week's selection. This first one, we're going to talk about the Kim Crawford first, all right? So Kim, this is actually a known producer to me. Kim Crawford is actually one of my favorite winemakers. So his name is not unknown. In fact, he's gone on to do his own product called Love Block now that we've actually featured in some of our shows, and you'll be seeing again at the Pinot Noir show in a couple of weeks because it's freaking awesome. So Kim's a known factor in this. This is a case where this was a brand that was bought out, I believe, by Millennium Brands, that when Kim Crawford got famous for this particular wine, the Sauvignon Blanc. This is one of those things that popularized Sauvignon Blanc over the last 4 or 5 years. Kind of got it back on the map as not being an overly, actually, what would I say, about 10 years. But it not being an overly acidic experience, especially from the New Zealand producers. New Zealand really put its stamp on the Sauvignon Blanc world, and Kim was part of helping make that happen. But as far as what's on the label, right? We've got Kim Crawford. We've got the label. We got the name. We got the grape. The things that we're looking at, very key, right? We know exactly what we're getting and where. And then on the back of the can, it's also on the back of the packaging. This comes as a 2-pack can. So this is a 250 ml. But there's a 250 ml glass. So basically, this is a third of a bottle. Okay, 3 of these equals 1 bottle. So you're getting 2/3 of a bottle for that. For the price for the double can pack. Okay, one of the things we talked about in the canned issue was the fact that it's sometimes difficult for people to compare what they're getting to what they're used to paying for a bottle because the format's not the same, and we hate math. Myself in particular, because trying to do mental math while you're trying to make wine choices is really your left and your right brain going in opposite directions. Okay. So anyway, to say the least, this was this 2-pack cans for advertised for $9.99. Okay, that was our after service price. It was I think it was $11.99 with their grocery store price. Again, Good note, when you look for grocery store wines, you want to make sure that you don't have a big separation between their marked up price and their marked down price. If you happen to go to a club type store, usually that's an indicator that they're trying to make you feel like your wine is more expensive than it really is, when all you have to do is give them your phone number and marketing information and they'll give you a cheaper discount. So, but $9.99 for a 2-pack can. So basically $9.99 is 2/3 of a way to, if you want to add on another $5, that'd be about a $15 bottle of wine. So that's kind of where we're kind of scoping this wine to be as far as what quality range we're looking for. This wine also has excellent flavor words on the label. They've got their one sentence of marketing fluff, but then the palate bursts with grapefruit, citrus, and ripe stone fruit flavors, right? From exceptional vineyards in New Zealand's famous Marlborough region, we proudly craft this exuberant Sauvignon Blanc, delicious with fresh seafood, goat cheeses, salad, or on its own. So it has all the good basic things I want to see on a wine label. It's talking to me about what's in it, where it's produced, and when it was produced, who makes it, specific issues about flavor words, and they're even getting into they're getting into almost specific food pairings. I mean, they're talking about fresh seafood. Okay, good, as opposed to frozen seafood, I suppose. But the one that's good for them, goat cheeses, not just cheese. Cheese is a very broad category, but goat cheeses in particular, right? Goat cheeses, by the way, have particularly a sharp flavor because they tend to be on the base side of things, and therefore they make fun contrast to the high acid that is this wine. So it's got all the things. I mean, I definitely call that that's an A, but not an A plus. If they had a little more specifics, they'd be truly A plus packaging there. So, and I love the fact that on the can here, by the way, they show us that 3 cans equal 1 bottles to help you do that mental math, so you're not having to think about it as much. So, A star of the A on when it comes to our actual wine. Now let's go ahead and take a taste. Let's see whether we answer some basic questions. Well, I might do a shorter, an abbreviated version of the tasting grid here. Really, what we're looking for are 3 questions: is it well executed? Is it on style? And is it worth the price tag? So, taking a look at the color, I mean, this is, like I said, I know the name, and so I have high expectations about what I'm looking for. We've got a delightfully light straw colored wine with no occlusions, nothing wrong with the wine. Aromatics, it's very aromatic, jumps out of the glass. It's got a little bit of that gooseberry hint, but mostly it's got tropical flavors like grapefruits. It's got a little hint of melon, maybe even like a kiwi fruit, not to be redundant with their, national heritage, but there you go. They've got both the birds and the fruits, right? Tiny, hairy brown things, because that's an awesome thing to have in your country. But yeah, I mean, very aromatic, nice, crisp. It has a little hint of acidity in the nose, but not much. It's not sharp smelling as if the wine is warning you how acidic it might be on the tongue. Okay, here, that's where that acidity starts to hit. Front of your mouth, delightfully sharp, instantly mouth-watering. Salivary glands kick off in this beautiful grapefruit, burst. It's balanced out very quickly with that fruit flavors, and it really makes your palate kind of sing when it comes to that sharp, crisp taste, right? When we talk about highly acidic wines like this in the lower pHs, 3.2, 3.1 pH, and it's probably got a high degree of total acidity as well. So it's got both volume and pitch. So it's really coming at you very strong with that. It's exactly what this wine stylistically is supposed to be. Okay, the finish on it kind of lingers around for just a second, but then after that, it's only got a little bit of that lemon pith thing going on at the very end, and then it just kind of fades away. Crisp, clean, easy drinking. Often you'll hear the word quaffable, and you just take a sip and just enjoy it. So you're getting a really totally get what you pay for wine. I mean, at $15 a bottle, and for the format factor, right? I mean, why is this awesomer, right? This is great for when you're on the go. When I talk about picnic wines next weekend, you're going to be seeing me talk about this. I'm not going to be doing wines in a bottle and can, but I'm going to have some references and talk about what this format does for you when you are on the go. I cannot say awesome enough things about that. Just like a screw cap, you've got 100%. You don't have any cork taint or fallibility issues here. You're not going to get light strike because it's dark, because it's not, because it's opaque. Um, all the potential factors that go into swine spoilage, other than temperature, right, are going to be mainly avoided here. So this is really, really a great thing. And again, this wine's not designed to age, right? This isn't something that you're going to proudly put in your wine cellar anyway. I mean, if you're putting your bottles of Kim Crawford in there and holding on to them for more than 2 years, you're doing it wrong. That wine's not built in the bottle any different than it is in the can. And so while I know that there are some adaptations from a winemaking perspective and understanding what the challenges are between cans and bottles, this is a perfect example where it's been executed 100% on style. So, I mean, it is 100% well executed. It is totally on style. It is absolutely worth the price tag. I'm just pleased as punch to see a great wine like this in a format that's easy to have. And it is definitely a go-to when I think about wines on the go. Pretty darn cool. And by the way, the weird part is it's no longer Kim Crawford making it, right? After he went on to do his Love Block project, Millennium Brands is actually holding on to that quality point pretty well. Now, I don't know that they're at their aces tops when it comes to what the wine might have been when he had the helm, but I'll tell you right now, their product certainly isn't suffering from anything that's going negative, right? They haven't inflated their price. They haven't given you any reason to stop drinking it. So bravo to that. All right, grocery store grab numero deux. Black box Pinot Noir. This is pretty much a standard name when it comes to box wines. You will see this in large places, and it touts that they have over 70 different awards from their wines. And I had heard good things about it. I remember trying some of this back in many snows ago, back in the day. So I can't say I haven't tried it before. I hadn't tried it critically before, so it's still technically a new wine to me. And the wine that I had back then, I think was either a Merlot or a Cab. This is actually their Pinot Noir. So this, as far as packaging is concerned, again, we have a different packaging style. Okay, we've also got a larger format. Okay. Now, this is interesting because this basically it equates, instead of to bottles, it equates to glasses. So this is a 500 milliliter format, which is basically equal to 3 of 3 recommended glasses. Now, that doesn't help you understand how it would price out in comparison to a bottle. However, this black box bottle of Pinot Noir was $4.49 for 500 mils. Okay. Well, if you normally consider that 500 mils is 2/3 of the way, so effectively it's 2 of these cans, it has that same factor. If we just give it another 50% on top, if we added another 250, we're looking at a wine that's going to punch right there in that $8 range, $7-8 range. Okay. So that's an interesting thing, especially in the world of Pinot Noir. Okay, Pinot Noir normally a very fickle grape. I mean, I lived my early part of my wine career not trusting Pinot Noir below $20, and still a little bit of that lingers to me today. That's because Pinot Noir is one of those things where it's really all about the fruit, and you can't cheat. If you have low quality fruit, it's going to show up. There's not a lot of things you can hide behind. You're not hiding behind oak. You can't hide behind a lot of residual sugars. You can't, hide behind anything. And so it's particularly an example of a wine that it shows if you're not doing the right things. On the box, though, let's talk about why, again, this made the cut for the show, right? This basically has got first off, their packaging is really kind of well done in the all the way around way. They're thinking about all 4 sides of their product. So they talk a little bit about their awards, and they've got a lot of vanity production on the side. But they're also giving you the reason for why you should choose this format, which I applaud, about being easy on the environment, smart and convenient, and basically that, yes, it's an award-winning wine in a simple, different packaging. Really trying to say, hey, we're putting quality product in a package you're not used to, so please don't judge us by our box. Then again, they also talk about, available in 3-liter boxes. Perfect example when we're talking about longevity, about being able to have one glass of wine at a time and retain quality over time. But on the front, they basically give me all the information that I want to know regarding Enticing aromas of strawberry, cherry, and rose petal with complementary notes of toasty oak. Okie dokie. A little too much on that, but there we are. And fresh berry and cocoa flavors lead to a delicate, lingering finish. Now, this is a California Pinot Noir, okay, not a specific AVA. Means they probably have sourced from different areas and therefore cannot claim any one AVA in particular. It means trying to, they're definitely not trying to go and make a stand on we're from here. Okay, that's not uncommon when it comes to less expensive wines. It just that's kind of the usual, and it includes wines from any given country. When it comes to Vin de Paix or VDP wines, which are wine of the country, it literally just means wines from France. You know, it means anywhere this grape is produced, and it may not be from any one spot. It means we got good prices on the best grapes we could buy within our budget. It also means that, hey, we haven't necessarily followed any of the stricter laws regarding how the wine was produced. Okay, it frees them to do a lot of whatever. Doesn't mean the wine is bad. It just means that some of the quality controls are not considered. Okay, so as I said, so Pinot Noir. But I mean, first off, that descriptor paragraph. Well, the only thing we missed in the descriptors there was food examples. You told us what it tastes like, but again, if I'm new to wine, I'm looking to learn. That's not helping me any. But still, very descriptive flavors. And in fact, all of those flavors I would probably talk about when I speak about California Pinot Noirs. We talk about what I often refer to as the hot rod reds, right? We get bright cherries, you get cherry cola, those cola or cocoa powder flavors. Those are very distinctive in my brain when it comes to California style Pinot Noirs, at least at the higher end. Now let's see whether they can pull it off for $7 a bottle. So it does not jump out of the glass. It is certainly clear garnet. It is low on the extraction scale, or it is very fine. So it has a very, very clear sensation. I know you probably can't see it because of the lighting, but I can actually see through my shark all the way through to you guys. So again, that's not a bad thing. High quality Pinot Noirs are going to have that clarity as well. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's just even on the lightest side. This is maybe cranberry juice at top, whereas opposed to a deeper ruby or garnet color. On the nose, it's not really jumping out of the glass. I've got to kind of search to find it, but there are cherry, maybe cranberry flavors there. I don't get the strawberry out of it. It doesn't taste that warm to me. In other words, that doesn't have that warmer flavor that I associate with strawberries versus cherries. But in other red fruits, yeah, those are probably the only ones I might use to describe. It doesn't have the intensity of, say, a pomegranate. It has got maybe a waft of raspberry, maybe, in that, but not quite as sharp to the nose. And I don't get any of the oak or cocoa notes that they were talking about, at least on the nose. So mostly it's just a fruit forward nose, which again, that's a do no harm at this price point. That's really all I'm expecting. Remember, below $10, we're lucky if it tastes like a specific grape. Okay, so we're going to see if we even get there right now. Right now, we got this generic red fruit flavors. Let's see if it carries through. Okay, it's got a burst of a kind of a cherry cough syrup thing going on. Not quite pure cherries. I'm not finding that cocoa note. Maybe right there at the end, and maybe there's a hint of that cocoa powder actually. And definitely it's not an oaky sensation. It doesn't have anything in the way of a tannic structure. So it's basically, it's kind of fluid and right through your palate, doesn't stick to it at all. We talk about it. So I spent time writing scripts today talking about body and etc. The body of this wine is very much on the lighter side. It's water thin, not milk thick, right? It doesn't have that viscosity. It doesn't have that thing between, water, 2% milk, heavy cream. That's a great example of viscosity levels. Well, this is way on that watery side of things. And the fruit comes off with a nice bit of burst of flavor, but that's pretty much it. There's nothing really left to follow it up. It doesn't linger on your palate. There's not much structure. It's kind of a one-note guitar solo. It's kind of squealy, wow, and that's it. And then we're done. It just shuts off. There's not even a fade out. So yeah, I mean, I would call this a do no harm Pinot, but it doesn't have much of the stuff that I would point to anybody to say this is why people go nutballs about Pinot Noir. Um, this is kind of what I'd expect at $7 because again, it tastes like a light red wine. It doesn't to me taste like, man, this is a perfect example of what Pinot Noir from California should be. But at that price point, what am I expecting? Not much. Is it well executed? This is where I'd say sort of. It's not. It is not flawed, but the way that the fruit flavors carry off turns to that medicinal cherry cough syrup flavor rather than fresh and actual fruits, or even reducted or cooked processed fruits. It doesn't have a natural sensation to its fruits, which is odd to me. Is it on style? Not really. I mean, when I come to California, I want a little bit more out of this. I want that hot rod red. I want a little bit more flesh on the bones. This is way more of a 1984 Supra with flames on the side instead of an actual hot rod. So let's not go to Walmart and slap stickers on it and say it goes faster. Let's actually do the work. Okay. And then is it worth the price tag? Well, yeah, sure. For $7, what the hell were you expecting? It's definitely not a bad wine for $7, and it's not a bad wine. It's not a oh my god, why did I put that in my mouth? Okay, so it's not broken, and that's cool. So very again, kind of what I was expecting from this price point. So I can't again, there's no complaint in it. It's certainly not money wasted, but it's not something I would turn to even in this same thing. Knowing right now, I mean, by comparison, to look at what I'm seeing out of a wine like this, which is just as good at the same price point I can get for the regular bottles. This is basically it's still in that mind capture. Cheap wine comes in boxes. Okay, this is not expensive wine comes in boxes. This is not even decent or good wine comes in boxes. It's not leveraging what the packaging is good for. I mean, it is in the sense that it's using the packaging, but this time show me a little more effort. Give me some good Pinot Noir in that box, and let me take that to the picnic in the park or out on my camping trip or whatever. So. All right, so there's Black Box. Very nice. Questions, everybody? I've been sitting here chatting, and everybody's been kind of quiet. Either you guys are just highly enjoying your own beverage of choice during this afternoon. So, but that's all right. Any questions in the chat that I can answer for you? Open field Q&A. Doesn't have to be about anything. Can it be about your very own wine-related question, or even anything else? I think I had a fly that decided to attack my shark, and that was just rude. BOH tonight is Cupola Diamond Collection Zin. Coppola, excellent little Sonoma action going from there. They are that we're going to be doing Zin this weekend for by the way there, John. I don't know if you've got tickets and are coming to visit with us, but I would of course invite you. Coppola is awesome. I think we're doing the director's cut as one of their price points, and the Diamonds collection is fantastic. It's a really good example of what Zin ought to be. But again, Sonoma, man, it's where my love is for that grape. Where do I stand on organic wine? Great question, Rob. So organic are naturals, or natural wines, which are actually different things. Like the word organic, it's charged with a lot of controversy, disagreement on what the word means. Okay. So sustainability and organic and natural are kind of three words you hear. Now, sustainable can happen in a lot of different ways. Generally speaking, just means that the wines are harvested environmentally fashion, minimal water use, things like that. Organics are often claiming to be they're 100% of the time they're pesticide free, which is awesome. But then there's a question line on whether they are sulfite free or not, which is often the line drawn between organic and natural. Natural wines are basically hands off, ancient style. We crush grapes, we let yeast do its stuff, and we drink whatever comes out of the thing. Sometimes they're not even filtered, right? Or fined. So there's a whole thing with that. But I'm a huge fan of sustainable wines. I think the organic label is applied as a marketing gimmick as much as anything else, because some very large producers that I know that do sustainable farming, by the way, Kim Crawford being one of them, his wines are 100% organic, 100% vegan, and 100% sustainable. Simply by the fact of they use natural pest control rather than pesticides. They use good water techniques, and they don't use any animal-based products in their fining process. So they get to throw the word vegan on there as an example as well, which of course can be controversial depending on who you're talking to. But anyway, fact is, I love the idea of making wine that way because they're aiming at a quality product. They're not going back to all natural and to ancient ways because there's something cool about it. They're doing it because they think that the product they can make is better for the earth, better for their customer, better for their wine. That I can get behind. The idea of not shaving your armpits for it is not really my thing. But there's me. So Becker springtime. So Donna's still in Texas, hanging out with a Becker team. So what is their springtime made of, Donna? You'd have to tell me in the chat. So we got the Wente Nikki Rose Pinot Noir. Oh, the rosé of Pinot Noir. Oh, nice. So I would definitely interested in Wente's rosé collection. Wente, for those that are not who don't know, they're right around Livermore, about just east of San Francisco. So in a funky, kind of an odd growing spot from the world of wines in California. But they're part of that greater San Francisco AVA, and they are a lot of fun. I really like a lot of the wines they make, but I don't think I've ever tried one of their rosés, so I'll have to make an effort to do so. And yeah, so director's cut, as Carrie's saying, director's cut's my second go-to when I can't find my usual house in, which is Dry Creek Vineyards. And the only reason that that's currently my house is because Alexander Valley Vineyards is not available at my local Total Wine. It is probably my favorite at the $20 price point. So, HOM at Total Wine. If you have seen it, got an ad from them. Rob, you went acronymic on me. HOM at Total Wine. I'm trying to think of a word that I just said that starts with an 8 and ends with M. I'm like, well, we'll get there. Anyway, what else is that? It's a white, not real sweet, but a good sipping wine, right? That's an organic. Home is the name. Oh, okay. They wanted to set themselves apart by spelling everything loudly. So home. But all right, well, we'll have to check out this organic wine. So organics are generally not too far off of what you're going to see. It just means, like I said, a lot of places don't use pesticides anymore. I mean, that's been a thing for a while. It's not as edgy and avant-garde as one might think, but it's good, and I'm glad they're doing it. And it's more the natural wine movement that I'm like, they get the natural wine movement because of it really messes with the process, and it basically says that we've been learning too much and we should unlearn some stuff. And I disagree with the fundamentality of it. I think it's an interesting experience. I think it's an interesting exercise in winemaking. But from the products that I've tried, I'm like, yeah, that's a thing. You did that all right. Boy, good on you. Kombucha, huh? Tell me more about that. Where did it ferment? Anyway. So those are. So I will have to check that out. Like I said, if you guys want to try organic, vegan, and sustainable wine, grab a bottle of Love Block. That's what Kim Crawford is doing these days. His wines are just that. We're at I think we did one for. Where did we do the Sauvignon Blanc? It was it was for the Sauvignon Blanc tasting. We did the Kim Crawford, which people raved about, and I have since tried the Pinot Noir, and it is going in the Pinot Noir show at the end of this month because it rocks socks, as the saying goes. It is probably what I would call one of the best examples of New Zealand Pinot Noirs that I have seen in the last 10 years, especially at that price point, rather. So good stuff, widely available, and really, really good material. So awesome. Let's see. What else is that? So I said coming soons. We got Zinfandel this Friday at the $20 to $40 price point. So we're bumping up price point a little bit. We're going to talk about Lodi, Napa, and Sonoma. I was going to go worldwide Zinfandels. I was going to get some Primitivo going, but I really decided I wanted to separate that out for a later purpose because they're stylistically so different. This is much more of a vertical comparison instead. So rather than comparing Italian Pinot Noir Primitivo Italian Zinfandel or Primitivo to American Zin, I wanted to compare what Zin look like as its different regional style applies. And California is kind of really the home to it. You're not seeing a lot of Zinfandel produced in other places that is in that same price, in that comparable price point. So you're going to see some fun examples up and down the Northern California area, and mostly in a little bit what I would call the sweet spot, that 20 to 40 point. So we're going to do a little Earthquake, a little Coppolas, and a little bit of Frog's Leap. So then we got picnic wines coming up. I need to put some recipes in there. I gave some general guidelines, but I'm going to put some specific cheeses and some other picnic fare for your basket as good suggestions, so that we can have similar picnics. Although all of you guys are very good at creating your own wine picnics. I know this. I've seen the pictures. So right, it's almost like you don't need instruction. Mostly we're going to talk about how to strategize if you're not at your own home. If you're on the go, what's the right level to thread between luxury and convenience, and how we get there, and what wine styles are most complementary for that. So that's kind of a cool thing. If you guys like to be out of doors or like to be on the go, this is a fun show for you guys. And then we do Pinot Noir at the $20 to $40 price point as well in the next week. So we got some high quality Pinot Noirs coming up at the end of the month. August dates will be coming soon, because I'm down to 3 shows in advance. So we'll start producing the rest of them. There's some fun topics coming up pretty soon as well. Let me see if I can give you guys the previews of what's coming up. Little preview into the behind the scenes. In August, we will be doing. What do we got? We got our smoked edition of Wine Plus, so wine with smoked meats, because that's going to be fun. We've got Pinot Grigio, Wine and Cheese 3, and then light international whites. I think like Albarino, Vermentino, and other Enos that you guys probably haven't heard of or don't drink often enough. So we're going to do fun, lighter styles of whites later coming on. So John said it makes some value to stripping down to basics and seeing what can be learned from experimenting with the basic techniques that are just accepted. But when there's a commercial structure, yeah, exactly, and that's the weird thing, though, John. If anything's worth trying these days, it's just being different has its own virtue sometimes in the marketing world. And then I'm not against experimentation. I'm like, say, go right ahead and do it. It's just so not. There's some products, though, that I think that they get too much credit just because they're different, rather than being virtuous on their own merit. So that is the way of all things, I suppose. It comes into everybody will do anything to do a sale sometimes. Fact is fact. So, all right, guys. Well, thank you guys again for another hour of your attention and participation. I appreciate you guys all the time. I'm thinking about you guys for when I do all this cool content, and I hope you guys have enjoyed. If you guys come back to the thing, give me your comments. Brett, do you know anything about it? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Are you, Brett, curious? Are you wanting to find and explore this concept because it sounds like you want to have a wine that makes you feel passionate and musky? So if you like what we're doing, hit that subscribe button and share with a wine-loving friend. And if you really like what we're doing, come and see us over on Patreon. We've got exclusive content that's available for our Patreon only, and we really appreciate all of those guys that give us their financial support. It's amazing, and thank you guys so much. So until tomorrow, when we will talk about the wine's magic touch, all the tactile components that wine brings into your taste. We'll see you guys then. And if not, I hope to see you guys at one of our online wine tastings. Stay safe out there. And until next time, I've been your WineShark. Cheers.